Mental health, it's really important. And to those who don't think it's something that we need to focus or spend any time on, they really need to reevaluate their priorities because mental health is just as important as your physical health, like a healthy mind, healthy body, that sort of thing. So let me preface this by saying that I have Asperger's syndrome. I kind of hinted at it when I talked about Fantastic Beasts and said that I could relate to Newt Scamander, but that's because I can see myself in him. And I can't really say that too often because there's not quote unquote like canon autistic characters. It's more that I see the way they act and I can relate to them, and then I say that maybe they're autistic or have Asperger's or something. But some of the characters that I have seen this in are Fiona from Elementary, Sherlock from BBC Sherlock, that one's kind of obvious, Abed from Community, Reed from Criminal Minds, Elliot from Mr. Robot, Eleven from Stranger Things, and Lisbeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. She's one of my favorites because she is kind of kick-ass. So the reason why I point this stuff out is because media representation is important, and to those who don't think so, they've never negatively been affected by it. Like when I brought up that I have Asperger's to someone, they brought up Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, and I always get that response, and he's one of those characters that portrays it kind of wrong. Like, there are people that are super smart who have autism and they can do all that stuff, but most people can't. So they just think that, oh, you're not super smart and you can't like go on tangents like that, so what you have isn't real. And another reason was like when I brought up that I was asexual, they immediately think Dexter, the serial killer. So representation is important because that's how people see you, and you could tell them all sorts of things, but like once they have that idea in their brain, it's pretty much there for life. And so I gave those examples to you, so maybe you can go, maybe if you don't know too much about it, you can go and see like maybe a better portrayal of autistic people, and maybe spread that around so the ideas get changed. But as I was saying before, Asperger's is on the autism spectrum. We have all the similarities to autism, but we have normal language development early on in like childhood and stuff. So we don't have like stutters or anything weird with our speech. But yeah, social situations are obviously always a struggle. I can't keep or initiate eye contact, like social cues like body language and facial expressions and sarcasm. Forget about it, I can't. But if you were ever to sit me down and like show me pictures of faces, and I could say, oh yeah, that one's happy, that one's sad, whatever, because they're usually like really exaggerated, and like I can't get it unless they're really exaggerated. Or if someone tells me, hey, I'm upset, I'm like, oh, okay, and then I try to remember that for later on. And there's another thing that I have that's called selective mutism, and it's where you can go for days. I can go days without speaking because I don't have anything to say, so I don't see the point. Like, comfortable silences are a good thing, and you don't always need to fill the space with speaking, but if it's something that's related to my special interests, which is another thing, is that like hobbies or interests, obviously, that really get my attention, and like that's all, it's almost obsessive. Like I learn everything there is to know about it. I like collecting, so like I have to have everything that's related to that interest. So like I really like books and music and video games and like lots of other stuff, baking. So and bees. I really love bees and gardening, so I have lots of books on how to keep like rooftop gardens and how to do beekeeping, amateur beekeeping. And I have all these baking books, and I subscribe to all these baking magazines, and I own lots of CDs, and I have cassettes and vinyl. Like I consume everything, and I think and I could tell you like when like if it's one of my favorite authors, I can tell you when their book was published, where it was, like what different languages it was translated into, everything about the author. I know everything about my favorite authors, but like, and I have all of their books, and they're all like lined up in dates and like heights and colors and all that stuff. So it's kind of obsessive, but that's just me. And those are what special interests are. And I can go on hours and hours about talking about like a certain TV show or an actor or something, and people don't care, but I will keep talking about it anyway. And that's one of the things that's like, it's very one-sided, and I don't see that they're not interested, but I just keep talking anyway. So that's always awkward. But growing up, I could see how all the normies act. So I've been able to mimic them for most of my life. Like, oh, I know when I need to smile. There's a smile. I know when I'm supposed to, I really hate to, but I know when I need to shake hands. I hate touching people, but that's another, that's a subject that's later on in this little talk. So I was like, oh, this is when I need to shake someone's hand. Oh, this is when someone needs to add such and such to the conversation. I see it, therefore I repeat it, sort of thing. And that's how I've been able to not come off as weird to most people. Sometimes it slips out, but you can't always stop it. So there are other like symptoms. I have a strictly like regimented schedule, and it's not like written down anywhere, but it's like a daily routine that I hardly ever deviate from. And if I ever want to go out, I plan like weeks in advance to do it. Like when I want to go see a movie or something, I buy tickets like a month in advance, or if I want to go out to eat, I like schedule it a week in advance, sort of thing. To say that I don't live a very spontaneous and exciting life would be kind of an understatement. Like I more or less just come home after work and I read or do something like that. Like it's not too exciting, and I don't care that it's not. Most people would say, oh, spice up your life. And it's like, nope, I don't have plans for the weekend, and that's how I like it, sort of thing. And another thing that I hinted to already is I hate touching. I don't want to be touched by people, and I don't want to touch people. Shaking hands is not something I do very often. Hugs, forget about it. Unless I initiate it first. Like, I don't hug my parents, sort of thing. To give you an example of how crazy it might seem to people, but I just don't like it. I don't wear jewelry because I hate the way that it feels on my skin. And certain things I just can't touch, like slimy things. Nope, forget about it. And I'm extremely sensitive to loud noises. Like if there were to be a bang somewhere off in the distance, most people would be okay. I would jump. Most people, whenever I do it, they say I remind them of a cat, because I just kind of like, ooh, like I jump like that whenever there's a loud noises. And I like the similarities, but it's kind of like people bring it up all the time and they joke me about it. And it's just like, hey, let's just not make it a big deal, okay? Let's just drop it, okay? But obviously, people don't, because they're silly. So why is this called mental health, you ask? Well, now that I've gotten that out of the way, The negative aspects of living with Asperger's is that you don't understand feelings and emotions. So when you have them, they overwhelm you. Like, I don't understand it, and I don't know why I feel things that I do. And so, like, trying to tell someone else about them and to understand them myself is a really big issue. So whenever I feel these things, I don't know how to react to them. I don't know how to alleviate the stress that it puts on me. So I just kind of sit in it and I wallow in it, and it consumes me like a big giant ocean wave, and I don't know how to handle it. And my inabilities to connect with people is leaves me kind of lonely sometimes. Like, I live in this weird paradigm where I want friends and I want companionship, but I don't know how to get it, and I don't know how to keep them. So I hardly have anyone in my life other than my family, and I have a friend here, but that's it. And so it can be kind of lonely sometimes. So mix that emotional repression with overwhelming loneliness, and you end up with depression. I'm gonna preface, I've never been suicidal, so that's okay. But I have always battled with depression. Like, it started in middle school, and back then I didn't understand anything that was going on because I never went to go see anybody, because my parents never liked to admit that things were wrong. So when I tried to reach out and say, hey, I don't feel right, they'd just be like, oh, it's just growing up, it's just hormones, you know, you'll get over it. So for the longest time, I just thought it was me being an angsty teen that I had, and I was really, it was stupid, at least at the time, to me, because it's like, I have everything that I could ever want. I have a roof over my head, I have food in my belly, I have a nice warm bed to sleep in. Like, why do I feel this way? Because I have no reason to. So I just kind of shoved it down deep, and it's just like, get down there. But it's just like, it kept bubbling up, bubble. So I reacted in the way that most people do. I self-harmed. I'm not proud of it, but because it's self-harm is very stupid. I realize that now, as a grown-up, looking back at my teenage years, I could say that it was stupid. And that was in high school. And it wasn't until I went off to college that I was like alone for the first time, like completely alone. My family wasn't there. I had no one to talk to unless I went out and made friends, and of course that didn't happen. So the first year of college was absolutely terrible. And so thankfully there was a on-campus therapist. I went to her very often, and that was when she first brought up, hey, maybe you have this thing called Asperger's. And she showed me all this literature, and I read it all, and I understood it, and I was like, yeah, this seems like me. So for the first time in my life, I could understand what was happening, and when I saw the signs, I could better react to them. So after our first little chat, she offered to like refer me to a real therapist so I can get like a prescription and all that stuff. But I said, no thanks, because I didn't want my parents knowing. My parents don't know to this day that I've been to therapists and I've been offered depression prescriptions. And I don't think I'll ever tell them, because somehow they would turn it into something about them. It's something that we did. It was our parenting skills. And it's just like, it has nothing to do with you. And let's not focus on you for 2 seconds. It's just something that's my brain. That's how I was made. But anyway, it was more just the understanding and knowing that helped me. And whenever things got heavy like that again, I just went and talked to her. It was mostly just because I repressed things for so long, and so like actually being able to talk about things and talk it with to someone that felt like actually cared, even if she didn't, I felt like she cared. It was a great weight off my shoulders. So back to late 2016, early 2017, I could tell that the signs were coming back. It was around Thanksgiving and Christmas, obviously. It was my first holidays not with my family, being a grown-up by myself. I spent them alone, and that made it a lot worse when I went out and I saw all these happy people, and I was like, I want what you have, sort of thing. So my reality just kept getting darker and darker. And then, sorry to make it political, but Trump won the election, and I just felt like the world was falling apart, and I just kept falling deeper and deeper, and I tried to like put it on the back burner. I tried to put in more hours at work, so I got exhausted, so I didn't think about anything. And then when I came home, I tried to do these YouTube videos, and it was good for a while. It distracted me, but then when everything was quiet and I didn't have anything to do, and it was usually late at night, it just crept back in, and that's how it goes. And everything was a distraction, and I lost interest in the things that brought me joy. I stopped eating. I didn't sleep. I quit riding my bike, which is something that exercise obviously makes you feel better. I drove everywhere, which I don't normally do. So I could and I started thinking about maybe self-harming again, and then I was like, no, it's time to go see a therapist again. So thanks to old Obama, I could go see my own therapist, not on my parents' insurance, so they went no, and I visited her for a couple months, and that's why I had my little hiatus thing. Yeah, I had to get my head back in order and my emotions back in line. Because if I did more videos, y'all would have noticed, and it wouldn't have been great. You'd been like, what's wrong with her? I'm not gonna watch her anymore. So I'd much rather have lost some people's attention than to completely weirded people out. So sorry about that, but I didn't want to put y'all through that. So I know to most of you this won't matter, and you'll just go on being happy, but to the others that maybe struggle a little, I would totally recommend you speaking to somebody. Most times the problems can be alleviated by talking. You just feel alone and you feel like nobody cares. But just talking to somebody, and that whole like talk to your teacher, talk to your parents sort of thing is kind of wrong, at least for me. Maybe other people, they have a really great support group at home, or they feel like they can confide everything in their teachers. That wasn't me. Most of the times it was something anonymous, and in high school I took advantage of like phone hotlines and stuff. Like I waited till everybody was asleep and I called one of the 24-hour hotlines sort of thing. Like that was more my route. I wanted to be anonymous because I was embarrassed about it, if I'm being honest. I'm embarrassed about admitting that I was ever depressed, and I don't feel like I really had any reasons to, so I felt guilty for some stupid reason, and I didn't want anybody to know. I just wanted to handle it myself, and I just took care of it. I didn't need anyone else. But that's not for everybody. So maybe you can talk to your parents or to your teachers or whatever, but if you can't, that's the way you can go. And sometimes talking doesn't always work. Some people may need medication. I was offered medication to help with my depression, but I kind of turned it down whenever it was brought up. I would much rather feel the things and then talk about them and try to work through them than to numb myself to everything that makes me, you know? That's not for everybody, obviously, too. So if you're, like, obviously if it's overwhelming and you can't, like, if you're suicidal, obviously medication is probably best for you. But I just have waves of depression. I was never suicidal. So sometimes you'll need a prescription, is what I'm saying. And to get a little sappy, we are all human. We all have hearts and brains and feelings and emotions, and you are valid in your feelings. Like, you could be your situation that you're living in. It could be just the chemicals in your brain. It could just be you had one bad day and it's just turned into 100 bad days. Like, it could be anything. But your reasons are valid and you deserve to be happy. So I definitely recommend you seek happiness. But anyway, enough about that. I do have another Cooking Mama in real life coming soon. I have footage from a while ago. I just never got around to editing it. So I'll just put that together and put it out real soon. And I hope to do other little talks like this, just sharing stuff and hopefully reaching somebody. Probably do some more stuff about like special interests and stuff. Like I did a little bit with my like what's on my Kindle and all that stuff. But I'll bring like music and games into it more. Like I tried to do games, but I feel like gaming is slowly dying on YouTube, so I didn't want to bore y'all with that. But I hope to produce more things now that I have a stable environment now. Like if I do ever need help, I have someone to go out and talk to. So I'll never get this bad again where I need to take like 3 months off. I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, I hope to see y'all again real soon. Have an awesome day. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.